Welcome to Forgotten Stories. Here, we uncover memories buried by time, tales no one was ever meant to remember. Forgotten places, restless spirits, and dark secrets that still linger in the shadows. Tonight, we step into one such place. An abandoned hospital where time has stopped, but the whispers remain. Prepare yourself. Because this is the Silent Hospital. There are places that time has abandoned. Places where the walls are cracked, the halls echo with silence, and whispers of souls that never left linger in the air. The locals still talk, in hushed voices, about St. Mary's Hospital, once a place of healing, now a ruin wrapped in blood-stained mystery. By day, it is nothing but a hollow building, decaying in the daylight. But when night falls, the doors seem to breathe, waiting for someone foolish enough to enter. And what remains in the shadows, will never let you leave. Michael, a young doctor, fresh out of school. He had heard the stories for years. His friends often mocked the hospital with drunken dares. Bet you wouldn't last a night in there. They say anyone who goes inside either loses their mind, or never comes back. Michael didn't believe in ghosts. He believed in science, in reason. Every strange sound or shadow had an explanation. One night, after too many drinks, he laughed and said, "Fine. I'll sleep inside St. Mary's. Tomorrow, I'll tell you all what I saw, if anything." His friends laughed, thinking it was just a joke. But Michael was serious. He packed a flashlight, a notebook, and a small tape recorder. He wanted evidence, proof that the Silent Hospital was nothing but rotting walls and superstition. That night, his car stopped at the gates of the hospital. The moon hung pale and sickly behind drifting clouds, casting faint light over the broken windows. They looked like dead eyes staring down at him. The rusty gate groaned open under his push. A gust of icy wind blew from the inside, like the exhale of something that had been asleep for decades. He clicked on his flashlight. The beam stretched down a long corridor, walls mottled with stains, the ceiling dripping with water. Faded signs clung to the walls, but one stood out clearly: operating room. Every footstep echoed unnaturally. Michael felt the building was not just empty, it was aware of him. Sound of the wheels echoing endlessly, squeak, squeak, squeak. At the end of the corridor, Michael stopped before an old wooden door. A metal sign above it read, "Operating Room 3." Cold air seeped from the gap beneath. His skin prickled. "This is it," he whispered. The door creaked open under his hand. The beam of his flashlight swept across the room, and Michael's breath caught. On the operating table lay a patient. The chest was split wide, blood soaking the sheets. Surrounding the body stood 4 surgeons, in stained white coats, their faces hidden behind ancient surgical masks. Their hands glinted with scalpels and clamps. Michael staggered back. "No, this isn't real." Then, one of them slowly raised his head. The mask was blackened with dried blood. Where the eyes should have been, were hollow sockets. The head twitched unnaturally. And then, all 4 of them turned, in unison, to face Michael. Michael's heart hammered. His rational mind screamed hallucination. But his body knew the truth: what he was seeing was real. The surgeons didn't walk. They slid, as if the floor pulled them forward. Their scalpels caught the faint moonlight from a broken window. Michael stumbled back into the hallway, slamming the door. The wood rattled violently, fists pounding from the other side. The tape recorder in his pocket crackled with static. Then, a voice whispered, low, guttural, not his own. "You shouldn't be here." Michael's hand shook as he clicked it off. But the whisper didn't stop. Now it came from the walls themselves. He ran blindly, turning corner after corner, until he burst into another room. The smell of rot was overpowering. His light swept across tiny beds lined in a row. Rusted cribs. Peeling wallpaper with faded cartoons. The children's ward. At first, it was silent. Then, soft giggles. Michael spun. Shadows darted between the beds, small figures crouched low. His light caught one face for only a second, pale skin stretched thin over bone, hollow eyes wide with hunger. A child, but wrong, twisted, its mouth too large, teeth jagged. They crawled closer, nails scraping metal, dozens of them. The giggles grew into shrill laughter. Michael shouted, "Stay back." His voice cracked. He swung his flashlight wildly. For every child the beam touched, another appeared closer, as if the darkness birthed them. Suddenly, all the cribs shook violently, slamming against the walls. The children shrieked in unison. Michael bolted from the ward. Behind him, tiny footsteps pattered, chasing, but when he turned, the hallway was empty. Only the echo of laughter followed. Panting, he reached a stairwell. Rusted signs pointed basement. His instincts screamed not to go down, but the pounding footsteps of something heavy descended from above. Thud, thud, thud. He looked up. A massive silhouette blocked the top of the stairs. Its head scraped the ceiling, arms too long, fingers dragging on the rail. It breathed like a furnace. Michael had no choice. He ran downward, deeper into the hospital's belly. The air grew colder, staler. Each step echoed like a drumbeat. The smell of mildew gave way to something sharper, formaldehyde. The basement opened into the morgue. Rows of metal drawers lined the walls. Some hung open, their contents long rotted away. Michael's light shook as he whispered into the recorder. "Basement level, morgue. Noises above. I think something is following me." He froze. They began crawling down, dragging themselves across the tiles, bones cracking with each movement. Michael bolted through the opposite door, but not before hearing one final voice hiss from the darkness of the morgue. "We've been waiting, doctor." Michael stumbled into another corridor. The air was heavier here, thicker, almost liquid. His flashlight flickered and dimmed, the beam swallowed by the blackness ahead. This hall was different. The tiles weren't cracked. They gleamed, wet, slick with something dark. He realized with horror it wasn't water. The floor was soaked in blood, fresh, reflecting his pale face in red ripples. The silence was suffocating. Then, without warning, every door along the hallway slammed open at once. Figures stood in the doorways, patients in tattered gowns, for tubes dangling like nooses. Their skin was gray, their mouths stitched shut. They shuffled forward slowly, in perfect rhythm, like a silent army. Michael's breath caught. He turned to run, but the hall behind him had closed. The walls themselves had shifted, trapping him in a tunnel of stitched mouths. The patients raised their hands in unison, pointing at him. And then, though their lips never moved, a voice filled the hall, booming inside his skull. "Doctor. Stay." Michael dropped the recorder. His legs refused to move. He clawed at the air like a drowning man. And then, something cold gripped his wrist. The stitched patients parted, making way. Through the wall of bodies emerged the 4 surgeons from operating room 3. Their masks were soaked, dripping, their hollow eyes burning with pale fire. Michael screamed, breaking free of the invisible force, and ran blindly. He didn't care where, just away. His shoes splashed through blood, his lungs tore with every breath. But when he turned the next corner, the surgeons were already there. When he stumbled into a stairwell, they stood above and below. When he crashed through a doorway, they waited inside. The hospital was folding around him, bending its halls, ensuring he could never escape. Finally, he fell to his knees in the darkness, sobbing. His recorder rolled across the floor, still capturing every ragged breath. When he opened his eyes, he was no longer in the hall. He lay strapped to a cold metal table, arms and legs bound in leather restraints. Blinding lights glared above him, surgical lamps that flickered like dying stars. The surgeons loomed overhead. Their hands gleamed with scalpels, clamps, bone saws. One leaned close, and Michael realized its mask wasn't cloth at all, it was skin, stretched and sewn into place. "Wait, no. I'm not your patient." Michael screamed. But his words were drowned by the hiss of oxygen tanks, the click of instruments. The surgeons ignored him, murmuring in a language of guttural groans and rattles, a speech not meant for human ears. A sharp sting pierced his arm. And 4. His vision blurred. His chest grew heavy. He tried to scream again, but his mouth filled with gauze. He was the patient now. The scalpel touched his skin. Then, Michael opened his eyes. He sat upright with a gasp, drenched in sweat. He was in his car, parked outside St. Mary's Hospital. Dawn was breaking. Birds chirped faintly. It had been a dream. A nightmare. He laughed shakily, running a hand through his damp hair. He was safe. The hospital stood silent, crumbling, nothing more than an empty ruin. He started the engine. The radio crackled to life. Static, then a voice. His own voice. Basement level, morgue. Noises above. Screams, but dozens of voices, the stitched patients, the laughing children, the whisper of the morgue. And at the very end, a single phrase, spoken in unison by many mouths. The silent hospital will never discharge its patients. And to this day, when the moon hangs pale above its broken windows, some say you can still hear the squeak of surgical wheels echoing through the night. Waiting for the next doctor who dares to enter.